I haven't got time to mark this motherfucker. Here we go again. We can't hear anybody. Nobody can talk to anybody.
You guessed it, Pressure Points with your two favorite hosts. I'm D, and this is SAJ. We're coming at you with Season 6, Episode 40, Butchers of Bosnia 6, Visegrad. It's another installment of the Yugoslavian Civil War series. Strap in, it's a tough one. Find us on Instagram and Patreon at pointsopressure.com. Let's get to it.
Well, turn the fucking thing off, you dumbass.
The volume was a little quiet on our side, so it was kind of hard to tell when it was getting louder.
It was really awkward when it started picking back up because we're both just like, this is quiet as fuck.
Yeah. Threw me off.
Yeah. We're back.
Yeah, we're back. How you been?
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's been a good weekend. Yeah.
Nice.
I got Friday off for Veterans Day for some reason. So I went and saw Killers of the Flower Moon. It was good.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, you went with one of our patrons?
Yeah, because he's a patron, he paid me.
Because he's a patron, yeah. If you're a patron,
you can go see movies in theaters with D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Went with one of my buddies, and it was so well done.
Such a good movie.
If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Yeah, it is 3 hours, so either bring a diaper. Or
it doesn't
before.
feel like 3 hours, but plan on it being 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, but it was so good.
It's impressive.
Fantastic.
It's a good one.
Yeah, they matched the story. They matched like historically how it happened.
Just performances were phenomenal. It's an incredible message. Such a the way they tie everything up and go about trying to give the impression that we're not trying to extort this story for massive amounts of money. We're telling the story because it needs to be told.
Exactly.
It's good.
It's good. And the cameos are phenomenal.
Yeah, it's impressive.
That old guy, I always forget his name, from Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah. I can't think of any of the names. But
and Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, and then Jack White.
Oh, my God. Him at the end was so... I loved the way they...
It surprised me. I was like, what the fuck?
Jack White at the end and how they kind of closed it all up was just so... I think it was perfect. Rather than going for another 45 minutes showing it being closed up.
Shows of
doing
everything.
this bullshit. They close it up super well.
Yeah.
And Jack White doing the racist indigenous person noise was so good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was good.
It's a good one.
It was really good.
Go watch it. Don't...
If you like history at all, go watch it.
You don't need to worry about spoilers and shit. Just go enjoy the movie because it's
straight up. It's good.
Oh yeah, so watched that on Friday, and then yesterday at 11, I decided to watch Pearl,
which was interesting because we started Talk to Me at 9:30 or something.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and so it was just a spooky movie night.
Yeah, I ran into a bunch of technical issues on the game I was playing, and so I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna go have a drink, take a hit, eat some food, and watch a fucking scary movie, and it was perfect. So I finished watching it
finally,
and
it's so good. Me and my wife's movie of life, movie of the life.
The thing is, anybody I love reading discussions after.
Oh, yeah.
For to see what people are like. Oh, hey, yeah. By the way, here's some interesting facts about it. And apparently, it's a divisive movie.
Really?
Yeah. It's either you love X or you love Pearl.
I love both of them. I love both of them.
But a lot of it was
but they were very different.
Yeah, very they're two different ends of the horror spectrum.
Yeah, definitely.
But a lot of people were like, I don't like how they tried to make it out to be this it came off as so campy with the Wizard of Oz references, and I was like, no, that's what they're going for.
That's what they're going for. There was literally a part where
it's not to make it seem like a cute movie. They're making fun of that Like they're playing into it so heavily. Like that's why she has that little stupid accent that's so blown out of proportion. It's so that it.
There's literally a part where it's almost imperceptible, but there's a part where they're just filming where it was, in real life, essentially. I mean, because the place where they're filming is just a farmhouse.
Yeah.
But, where they're filming in real life, and there's a moment where it transitions, and it looks like she's on a soundstage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, there's no spoiler. It's not a spoiler thing, but it's like when she's looking towards the river, and there's like bushes and plants behind her. It literally just transitions from, oh, I've seen that shot from X, or, I've seen this scenery, to that is an obvious painted background with fake plants set up exactly like that's how it looked.
Yeah.
It's like there are moments where it looks like she's on a soundstage, and it looks like, and then moments where she's just
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and find it because I still have access to it for like another day or two.
Oh, it's so good.
But yeah, it was, and don't turn it off when it says the end.
Yeah, do not.
Let it play until like the whole screen goes into a circle and closes and the screen is black.
It's so good.
Because
one of the best scenes is there.
It's the most unsettling thing. And her smile and like just that whole fucking ending.
That whole end is
it's
horrific.
worth it. So it ends and I'm sitting there, I'm like reading through stuff, and I'm like, I told my girlfriend that for the first time in a long time, I felt like Pearl is like a Jason Voorhees like power. Like she's unstoppable. Like, goddamn, dude.
She is unstoppable.
And
she
I was
is
just
her
like,
own
that's
force.
fucking scary as shit.
That is the X factor they talk about in the first movie.
Yeah.
It's like she just has something about her.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
At least that's how I interpret it. Is
it.
that she's got that unstoppable. She's got that X factor.
Yeah,
and
she's
that's
just a force to be fucking
in Pearl.
reckoned with.
It's like Jason Voorhees slowly walking towards you, no matter what.
Yeah,
it's that kind of power, and that to me adds so much to the first movie. To
it's
X,
so good,
showing that they both kind of have that.
So I'm laying there on the couch.
So good.
All the lights in the basement are off. And I'm just
of course,
damn,
that's
dude,
perfect.
like, that was fucking creepy. My girlfriend had been asleep in the other room, and the way that I'm laying, I have like 6 inches of like window that I can see through into the room, right? Mm-hmm. I'm laying there, and all of a sudden you hear, "What are you still doing up?" And I look up, and just in like the little crack is her face, but the way the light's hitting it, it just looked so sinister. Man, I jumped out of my fucking skin. It scared me so bad.
There's something about those movies that, like, it just, something about it lingers with you.
It's because it's so tense for so long.
And I don't know. I think it also.
The first, like, half of the movie is just, like, setup, but it's just, like, uncomfortable. You're like, what the fuck, dude? And then the second half is, like,
tense.
Now shit's going to happen.
Oh, and after she's dancing, her performance is so good. But yeah, there's something I think it also has to do with the complete inability to be able to completely predict this movie. Like, I'm so used to, I'm gonna, Halloween 4. I know exactly how it ends before. I've never watched that movie, but I can pretty well guess how it's gonna end.
Yeah,
and it's so many movies are so predictable in where they're gonna go. But these ones, there were many times where I'm like, oh, if they followed the trope, it's like it would do this, and they just go the complete other direction with it.
Or they go into the trope and it just
or they go into the
plays
trope
out differently,
over the top, or in a totally different way.
It's just good.
And like,
check them out.
It still freaks out my wife. Like, after watching those movies, it's like she's got to not think about certain scenes, or she won't be able to sleep.
They're definitely ones that'll like linger.
Yeah, there's some lingering moments.
They're worth it, and they got a Maxine coming out next year, I think.
God, I hope. I can't wait.
So,
if it's anything like these two, like, I don't know where they're going to go with it, because, as you said, both of them, X and Pearl, are on opposite ends of like the horror spectrum. One's more slasher and one's way more psychological.
Yeah.
Where the fuck is Maxine gonna be? The third movie.
No idea.
Like, is it gonna be both somehow? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But
check them out. If you
it's
haven't
really
seen 'em,
good. Welcome
check
to
it
the
out.
movie podcast, Pressure Points.
Yeah, fuck.
This is the comic relief
Right.
segment.
Yeah,
Where we're
big
talking
time.
about horror.
We certainly need it before this episode. How was your week?
I'm good. Just taking it easy, doing a lot of homework. I got to go in for 4 days in a row to school next week.
That's this coming
So
week.
I had to take off work to go to school. Yay.
Yuck.
Had to use up literally all of my vacation and PTO.
Last semester. It's your last semester. Halfway there.
6 more weeks.
Yeah, almost there, man.
6 more weeks, and I have to pass these 6 weeks.
You'll be fine.
The senioritis is so real.
I'm sure, dude.
Like, I'm looking at assignment right now in front of me. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this right
Do it.
now.
You have to.
I have to.
You gotta do it.
At
You
least
got
I
this.
have to do at least. God, if you listen to the last 3 years of this podcast, you will hear me bring up multiple times how stupid discussion posts are.
Yeah, fair.
That's what's killing me most. I will do any other assignment, and I'm fine with it, but I don't want to do the discussion posts, and I don't want to do the
They're weird.
responses.
Doesn't make any sense. They're odd.
No, they're stupid. So, and they're really hard to respond to because pretty much everybody just says the same thing in different ways. Everybody uses ChatGPT in the same way.
Because nobody likes it, so everyone's just like
everybody does the
buzzword it.
yeah the lowest common denominator, the easiest response. And it's always the same.
It's not an actual discussion. It's just
It's not a discussion.
yeah.
Like, I understand that, like, sitting in a classroom and having a discussion, that would be beneficial for a lot of these things. But trying to emulate that online and having it forced takes all of the discussion out of it. If you force somebody to have a discussion, it's going to be
It's
the
not gonna be-
cheapest, easiest way to say, okay, I did it.
Yeah, it's just two bots talking to each other.
Exactly. There's no actual conversation. The amount of times I've repeated the formula of, hey, I enjoyed reading this because this, and this.
Yeah.
I like how you pointed out this thing.
You just got to make a template.
What do you, and then a question mark.
You
That
need
is
to
my
make a
template.
Template, and
then
it's
it's a question about that
two
thing.
spaces for where you insert.
That's what it is,
Insert discussion topic.
pretty much. And I'm just
Almost there. 6 more weeks.
6
Got
more
this.
weeks.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna transition straight into this one.
Bosnia.
I will start off that this episode does have. I mean, it's a lot. And if you struggle with hearing about or listening to anything that has to do with sexual assault, I certainly recommend just passing on this one.
The rare pressure points trigger warning.
The very rare pressure points trigger warning. But if you, unfortunately, as much as I want to get into like catching up from all of the last ones, just go back and listen to them. The last one we really just covered the different camps that were set up by the Serbs for the Bosniaks and Croats and how bad the situations were for all of those. This one specifically, it follows the later part of our Sarajevo closing episode, Sarajevo Part 2. This happens in like the last little bit. This is in May 1992, April and May.
Well, it's crazy to think about this series just because it happens
still
across
has-
it's 2 years.
It's still
3 years now.
So
if
pretty much. Well, April 1992, March and April 1992 is when everything started to happen. But even then, the setup and kind of like Operation Ram and everything is in the 90s.
But everything happening all at once
ends
is
in
crazy.
1995. So all of this, everything that we're talking about, goes over the course of 5 years, and it is
a very
lot.
dense
Yeah,
5 years.
yeah. But yeah, this will have a bit of an overlap with the Sarajevo episode, and as much as I really would like to start to get away from this, and it's not like I want to tie this up and be done with it. There's a lot that still needs to be told. There's a lot that I'm still learning on it, but there's a lot to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's originally I was going to go from Sarajevo to the Markel massacre to Srebrenica to the war crime trials and tracking down of the Butchers of Bosnia. So originally it was like maybe 3 more episodes after Sarajevo. At this point, we have the camps, we have Visegrad, and I have no idea where we're going to go from here, but I don't know.
That's next.
I don't know.
That's next season D to worry about.
I'm gonna be working on this one for a while. It's just.
Don't worry, World War II is back next week.
Yeah, I dig it. I like the.
No, it's great. I think it's phenomenal.
I hate how dark all of it is, but like, I'm just able to learn it and figure it out so much easier, and it's like, damn. Like,
yeah.
I want everybody to know what the fuck is going on and how bad it was and how bad it still is. So, we're going to start off with the White Eagles, also known as the Serbian Avengers.
Okay.
Also known as the Chetniks. Also known as Serbs. So, it's a lot to unpack, but I'm just going to give a brief history of the White Eagles and the Chetniks, because they're basically interchangeable. So Chetniks, anytime I say, oh yeah, the Chetniks, I'm referring to members of the White Eagles. Anytime I call them White Eagles, that's just me saying like, yeah, the group was doing stuff. Just interchangeable. Chetniks is usually easier for me to say, but White Eagle itself is in reference to the 2 White Eagles that to this day remain on the Serbian flag. Now, the Chetniks were called the Chetniks back during World War II when they were Serbian Nazis. The Chetniks focused their efforts on the removal of Bosniak Muslims during World War II, much like Germans with Jews. They kind of used that as like a jumping off point. They were like, oh, German occupied Europe. Cool. Let's do it too. And they were responsible for the murdering of almost 70,000 Muslims and Croats at the time. They began calling themselves the White Eagles when they organized in World War II against the communist government that was led by Josip Tito. Now, Josip was he led one of the greatest anti-Nazi Germany campaigns during the war. He got like, I think it was like almost 120 different awards. Like medals, awards, whatever, for his work against the Nazis in World War II.
I was like, he was awarding them to himself.
Yeah. I plan on doing an episode on him because, like, he was a force to be reckoned with. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the Chetniks, and also known as the White Eagles, and Serb Nazis were doing their damnedest to stop him, mm-hmm. a resistance fighter to the Nazis, is really indicative of who Chetniks are. So in the 90s, the White Eagles was filled with Serbs that rallied together under Operation Ram. Operation Ram happened, but they all kind of had this, when they were doing all of their prep, getting these paramilitaries together, training under the police, getting weapons from the Russians, it was kind of this underground, like, oh, we're like the resurrected White Eagles. We're the White Eagles again. Like, we won't call ourselves the Chetniks, but we're the White Eagles again. We're coming back. And it's fucking terrible. And it was put together by 2 men who more or less were just like, hey, officially we're all the White Eagles in 1992. And then those two men kind of split off and did their own thing, started working directly with Republic Srpska, which was under control of Ratko Mladic, one of our Butchers of Bosnia. And in Visegrad specifically, you have, what is his name? Milan Lukic. This has all been off notes. I gotta find my place.
No, you gotta get back.
Yeah. So, in early April 1992, Visegrad is 100 kilometers east of Sarajevo, and during this time, this is April 92. This is when, like, we've had the Red Wedding, more or less. We've had people ripped out of their homes. They have people that are being pushed out of Sarajevo. They've started murdering people. They have snipers that are set up watching over Sniper Alley in Sarajevo. This is happening, like, at this time. The people of Visegrad are seeing this, and they're fucking terrified that the same thing's going to happen, because Visegrad is currently under JNA control. And JNA is basically Republic Srpska right now.
Yeah.
But we still have about a month and a half to go until Ratko Mladic takes full control over them and shifts them into Republic Srpska.
But the writing's on the wall. It's not like they're completely disconnected.
It's not like these guys are like UN peacekeepers. Like, it's it's the same JNA in Visegrad as in Sarajevo.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking people. God, I keep getting lost.
You're
There's
good.
so
Here,
many
I'll
fucking
fill-
notes in this.
I recently got some mail from someone living in Sarajevo.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was
that's
that
sick.
little decontamination kit
that's
from
right.
the 80s from the JNA. That
so
still had
cool.
the needles with atropine in it, so that's cool.
I gotta check out your video on that.
Yeah.
So Visegrad is home to about 20,000 people at the time, 21,000 or so. 2/3 of which are Bosniak Muslim. The remaining are majority Serb. There are, I think it's like 2% Croats. It's a really small amount of Croats. Mm-hmm. The big push is on Bosniak Muslims in this situation. And around this same time, like I said, the creation of Republic Srpska that Radovan Karadzic pushes for Mladic. I mean, they're buddy-buddy.
Oh, yeah.
When we get to the episode where they end up getting caught, they have so many pictures together that I didn't even realize. Just photos of, like, them.
Photo ops together?
Not even photo op. It's just, like, them out in the battlefield, and somebody just snapped a photo, and it's like Mladic is like, oh, yeah, like, explaining where they hit all these bodies, where a mass
It kind of
grave
feels
is.
like the pictures of celebrities with Epstein. Where it's like,
yeah, for
oh.
real. Except, yeah, honestly, almost identical. And at the same time, when Republic Srpska starts getting kicked up, Karadzic is pushing, and he says that Visegrad is to become a Serb town. Bosniak Muslims hear this news, and they are trying their damnedest to flee. In a lot of instances, they've already been pushed out of their jobs, some pushed out of their homes, some have already been taken to camps.
Wow, almost like the Jews just up to Kristallnacht in Germany. Like, it's exactly the same playbook.
Oh, dude, the thing is, going through this, there's so many, like, comparisons and
parallels,
attempts to relive what happened when the White Eagles were doing what they did in World War II. It's so fucking disgusting and terrible. Like, and this isn't even the worst. Like, this isn't even the worst one. Srebrenica, in a few episodes, is considered like one of the worst and most egregious examples of genocide since World War II. It's just, and this is like number 2 on the post. Mm-hmm. It's a very bleak future
yes.
for Pressure Points episodes. So strap in. So yeah, Muslims are leaving their homes, and this is when Lukic and his cousin show up and kind of take over and start to bring out all these paramilitaries even further than before. Before, because the JNA was occupying and it was such a small area, a lot of Serbs were kind of like, we're just waiting for our signal, and then Karadzic says, hey, this is Serb time, and they all just showed up, ready to go, already White Eagles, and Lukic is like, hey, cool, my cousin and I, we're your boss. And in 1943, during World War II, the Chetniks' preferred method of burying bodies in Visegrad is the Drina River Bridge. Now, the area itself is, a lot of people refer to it as the Drina Valley. It's this long river, Drina, that leads into... I have the lake listed here somewhere. It's like the Petrochach Lake. That's it. So, during World War II, 1,500 people were tortured and murdered on this bridge. We'll have pictures up on Instagram of the bridge itself. And these people were killed on the bridge and then thrown over the side. And, I mean, this is it's a big, wide river.
Well, why dig a hole when you can just use nature?
Just throw them down the river, I guess. So they would let the river carry them to their graves at Petrochach Lake, which I'm not positive if in 1943 they had the dam there, but in 1992 they had a hydroelectric dam at the base of it, and it was Petrochach Reservoir, and then the dam, and then it led down to the lake. So Lukic decided to stick to White Eagle tradition in one of the worst ways possible. And every single night, Bosniaks were tracked down, loaded into more or less a moving truck, and taken to the bridge. And a lot of reports said that this truck was always followed by a red Volkswagen Passat. Or Passat, I don't know how the fuck to say it, but like it was always being driven by Lukic, and it was like more or less his dream car.
German engineering.
German engineering, but he discovered a Bosniak driving it, stopped them, killed him, took his car.
Took the car, yeah.
So after they would arrive at the bridge, the Chetniks would search the bridge for broken bottles, pieces of glass, anything that they could get their hands on, really, if they didn't have their knives or their Russian-issued weapons on them. Or they would, like, there were some that would bring knives from home because these are literally just citizens that are being militarized. And, I mean, to imagine the bridge that night, it's just barely lit up. It's this long stone bridge that goes across the Drina River. Drina River is really wide, and just to imagine being there, you hear these children screaming and crying as their parents are killed in front of them, and then these children are shortly after stabbed and thrown over the edge of the bridge as well, along with their parents. While you also, it's countered by the laughs and the cheering of the Serbs that are doing it. They would kill every single Bosniak Muslim on the bridge, dump their bodies over the side, and it would just turn the water red with how many people they were doing every single night. In some instances, they would grab children or other people and throw them up into the air over the edge of the bridge and then shoot them while they fell into the water.
Like clay
as
pigeons.
They fell. Yeah, it's fucking
human clay
it's
pigeons.
fucking disgusting. And In the morning, the bridge would be crimson red, and a water tank would show up. Like, imagine you're a paramilitary that's thrown together without any organization at all, but they still have the organization enough to arrange for a fucking water tank to come over and spray the blood and gore off of this bridge every single morning because of what they're doing every single night.
I actually have some insight, because I always think, like, how quickly these civilians were radicalized and brought into this. And I was doing some research on the JNA before this event. Mm-hmm. And they had this concept for their defense. Because, they're a smaller country, and they've seen different wars, especially World War II, and they've seen what happened. So their idea of defense was total defense, which basically means if they were, coming under attack, systems would be in place that not just the military would respond to that attack, but every civilian would be part of this defensive force. So that, I can see where that concept from the decades before this event have made it so much easier to bring the civilians into this, because they were already expected to take up arms and become the military, no matter who you were, in the event of an attack. The jump from preparing the civilians, knowing that they at any time may become under attack and may need to play this role, to all of this shit happening, really isn't that far of a jump when you think about it, with all the other radicalization that you talked about with the propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. Like jumping back, and it goes back more than decades, but just the saying all Serbs one state, well over 10, 15 years old. I don't remember the exact year when they started using that as propaganda for Serbs, but all Serbs one state was like it wasn't even a tongue-in-cheek term. It was just make America great again, but in Serbia.
It was exactly that.
But I mean, if it had been around for since your parents started voting kind of thing, that's such a solid point that these people were ready and so willing to jump into a combative position.
Yeah, because they were basically indoctrinated to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that entire idea of defense. And when I was reading about that, I'm like, so much of this makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think if something similar were to happen in the United States, I know a lot of people who wouldn't want to jump into a paramilitary role. I wouldn't want to jump into a paramilitary role. But
there are a lot of people that would.
There are some people who would, but that's because of that previous indoctrination that takes a lot of time. But if I was raised with the idea that at any moment I would have to pick up a gun and report to a military commander, and I'm just in the military for this war now, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch for somebody else to say, it's time.
There's some people whose hands
now we're going to do this.
Some 2A dudes whose hands are shaking, some ROTC
some ROTC kids really disagree with what I said. But that, having that thought of, my entire life I've been taught about this thing, and now it looks like it's time. Somebody in the military is saying it.
Yeah.
It's that much easier to jump in. It's crazy.
It's so fucked. So they would arrange for this water tanker to come clean off the bridge. And it was so bad, in fact, that one day the owner and manager of the hydroelectric plant at the base of the Drina River called the local police and complained and asked if the White Eagles could, and I quote, slow the flow of corpses down the Drina as they were clogging the culverts at the dam at a rate so high his staff can't keep up with the removal.
I was going to make a joke about that and decided it was in poor taste, so I'm glad I did not make that joke.
Yeah, dude, imagine that many fucking corpses that your hydroelectric dam can't even fucking run properly. There was one man who lived 12 miles downstream the Drina, and he buried 200 bodies that he found ashore, or almost 200. I think the numbers are like 187. only half of which he was able to even identify or begin to identify. He said that the women were always naked and wrapped in blankets tied at each end so that they were guaranteed not to survive.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And this is just what was happening at night. Women and children were also taken from their homes. A lot of the instances at the bridge were men, and I believe every year they have like a huge get together at the Drina Bridge now that everyone kind of stands on it and they just mourn the loss of
memorialize
all of these people.
Mourn it, yeah.
And I mean, this isn't just one event that's happened, and it's not just, only during the Yugoslavian Civil War. This has been multiple times now that Muslim people have been murdered on this bridge. So yeah, women and children were taken from their homes and they were put in brothel camps, rape camps, whatever you would prefer to call them. I'm going to call them brothel camps. And one of these camps was the Velina Vlas Hotel, and it actually became the headquarters for Lukic. Now, similar to Sarajevo, Serbs would show up and assault women however they pleased at these camps, but the hotel itself was even more so, because when it's headquartered for the leader of the White Eagles, that's where people are going to meet. It's not like he's going to say, "Oh, these are my headquarters. Let's meet 2 miles away." So anytime,
some farm somewhere. Or something.
Anytime that they have these meetings, they have 200 women inside this building. These guys are going to show up for their meeting, and then they're just going to sexually assault and beat the shit out of these women, murdering them most of the time, and then they would just go back out to the streets and refill whatever quote unquote went missing over the last day.
It reminds me a lot of the Japanese treatment of Chinese women during like the Second Sino-Japanese War in World War II.
Just overall.
Like it overall in general, but Nanking is a very poignant example. But that didn't, the rape of Nanking didn't occur over years.
Yeah.
It was generally considered a singular event. So worse in some ways.
Yeah. I mean,
horrible in every way.
They would speak to these women. They would call them Turks, and they would say like, "I'm going to make it so that you never have a Turk baby ever again." Like they would get these women pregnant, and they'd say like, "It's not a Turk kid." Like it's just like such a dehumanizing thing to just look these poor women in the eyes. And in all honesty, women is a stretch of the term, because a lot of the time these girls were under the age of 15.
These were girls.
These are young children.
Yeah.
And they're being treated in such a fucking deplorable, disgusting manner. All of the people at this hotel, all of the victims there were it's just the most unfortunate situation and the most disgusting approach that you could ever take. And then to imagine, like, you imagine a hotel like that, like this fucking rape camp, and the leader of these guys says, "That's my headquarters. That's where
That's where I'm going
to station
memorialize
myself.
my power.
Yeah, like this
symbolize my power. This?
Yeah, is it this just the worst fucking place that you could ever set up shop on top floor? Like it's just fucking disgusting. Yeah, like I said, they had over 200 women in it. Like constantly, pretty much. Only a few really came out surviving the entire experience. One woman, Jasmina Ametspa, I don't know how to say her last name. Ametspahiquo. She was assaulted for 4 days straight, 4 days constant of being raped. And when she was finally left alone, she went to the top window and she threw herself out and died on the pavement below. Because,
I mean, yeah.
what else?
What else you gonna do?
Can she do? It's either that or the next time somebody does it for 5 days and kills her at the end.
Yeah, like that's
God,
not an
dude.
easy way out, but it's a way out. Because
this was Lukic's headquarters, in October 1992, they ended up raiding a bus that was fleeing Bosnia with a bunch of Bosniak Muslims and Croats. And 16 men were abducted from the bus, brought back to the hotel, and then they were killed at the hotel as well. They have not found many, if any, bodies of the victims of this hotel. And by the way, it's still up and running, Velina Vlas. They haven't changed the name.
Woo. That is not on my Travelocity list.
I'll get into it at the end of the episode. But yeah, they have an active Instagram account that has, as far as I understand it, nothing that honors the victims of this place.
Yeah, I was like, the Hotel Polski, as far as I know, is still, like, the building is still in existence, but there's memorials, there's plaques and shit.
You would think that the approach, if your hotel was used as a rape camp, would be to utilize that and do your best to memorialize the people who were all of the victims of this place. But instead, it's we're a rehabilitation facility, but not for that.
Yeah.
So towards the end of May, the SDS scheduled a bus to deport Bosniaks from the area. And a lot of these situations, I could go and do an entire episode on each of these massacres. I'm electing not to because, like, it's really fucking hard.
You get the idea.
It's really hard tearing up and crying while I'm writing my fucking notes because of how bad this shit is. But yeah, towards the end of May, the SDS scheduled a bus to deport the SDS, of all people, mind you, scheduled a bus to deport Bosniaks from the area. So they're saying, hey, we're going to take you out of Bosnia and Herzegovina, right?
Yeah.
So Bosniaks that are clearly in a very, very vulnerable position say, I'm going to take your word for it. They're trusting the devil himself, but they'd rather that than where they're living. So towards the end of May, a bunch of Bosniaks hop on this bus to leave the area. And close to the border, it's stopped. 17 men are taken off of the bus. The bus is still parked. They walk them around to the side of the bus, and Lukic shows up in his little red Passat.
That song would not have done as well.
Yeah,
Little Red Passat.
So Lukic pulls up in his little red Passat, steps outside, and he says, kill all of them so that the people on the bus can still see. They murder all 17 people, execute them there, leave their bodies there, and left it as a mass grave. And as far as I understand, the mass grave wasn't discovered until 2006, 14 years later.
I'm glad they found it, though.
Yeah,
that will hopefully give
dude.
some closure, I would hope. Or
yeah, hopefully. If anything, I hope that some of the victims of these events had people that are able to mourn them.
Yeah.
That are still alive. Some survivors, fuck. So on the 14th and the 27th of June, 70 Bosniaks, consisting mainly of women, children, and a few elderly, were forced into a home, forced into a small house. They were packed in really, really tight, and the door was closed, locked, barricaded. There were some women that were pulled, like the front door you'd hear clunk, you'd hear the door unlock, they would open it, and they would just grab a girl from the room, pull them out, close the door, barricade it again. They would rape them in the street, and then return them and grab another one. This went on for 4 hours as rocks were being thrown in through the windows. Shots are being fired into the side of the house. People are getting hit. I mean, it's a small house. It's 70 fucking people. And like I said, goes on for 4 hours until they put the last person back inside. The windows are boarded up, and grenades are thrown in through the windows. Shots continue to fire in through the windows. There are explosions inside this densely packed house, killing people inside, and suddenly Serbs decide, fuck it, and they set the building on fire with no chance of escape. And this happened twice. These are two separate events that the Serbs decided to do this. Only like 10 people survived in total, one of which spoke at the war crime trial for Lukic, but she looks like a shell of a human because as she was trying to escape, her clothes caught fire. She barely squeezed through this like tiny opening in a window. And as she got through, she saw her sister behind her trying to get through, but died trying to get out. She said that the youngest child was less than a year old, and she was unable to even describe the sounds that she heard, as most everyone around her was killed. As she ran away, as she got out, she turned back to look, and she saw Serbs laying on the grass outside, just having a drink, cheering one another, whatever.
Chilling.
And she went on record saying that the Passat arrived at 5 p.m. and within 4 hours the sky was light because the house was in flames. One witness said that they could hear the victims and it was like the screaming of cats. And that same day, June 14th, 50 Bosniaks were dumped into a different river, not the Drina River. Of the 14,000 Bosniak Muslims in Visegrad, 3,000 were ruthlessly murdered like this constantly. This went over the course of almost 3.5 years. This was regular shit. And in 2010, the water level of the Parachach River was lowered for the dam maintenance. And 373 complete bodies were found. Though the estimated amount of remains that they discovered through scuba diving and looking through, they estimated it to come up to about 2,000 people.
Damn, that's a lot of people.
At the time, it was considered one of the largest grave sites in Europe, or one of the largest mass grave sites in Europe. Obviously, other than so many of the mass graves that you talked about in your previous episode, like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, there's so many similarities that I can find
so
to
awful.
The ISIS-Gruppe in Eastern Europe, to the Nazis, to the Axis powers, fully and that's not even considering the fact that the Germans have, I shouldn't say the Germans, but the Germans before World War II, there were other genocides that happened in Africa that I'd love to cover. I have a book downloaded. I just need to read it about it, where there was some other events that precipitated to it. And not just the Germans. There's so many, unfortunately, so many genocides, but a lot of the methods are so similar in how they get there and how they convince people to be on them. Like you were even saying, oh yeah, we'll put them on a bus and get you out of here. How many times did the Nazis say, "Okay, get on the train.
We'll throw you on a train. Yeah.
We'll throw you on a train. We'll get you to the border, and then you can leave."
Yeah.
And then they end up at Auschwitz or Birkenau or wherever. Like the similarities are so interesting in a very morbid way. It's kind of like I watched this TV show God, I'm old.
I watched this program.
I watched a show on that talked about a bunch of different dictators, how they gained power, how they maintained power, and their ultimate downfall. And it doesn't matter if you're some sub-Saharan dictator or you're Gaddafi, the way you got into power was basically the same.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's this blueprint of genocide, which would have been a crazy good title for this series.
Yeah,
now that I'm saying it. But there seems to be this blueprint of evil that that people are using over and over again, whether they're, that's the easiest way to do it, or they're just learning from the people who were 20, in this area during World War II. They're going to be 60, right? Yeah, 60 at this point, and they're going to be telling their kids or in positions of power, when this happened, and they know how it worked before. It doesn't matter, how it got there, the means, but how the education, how the knowledge got there. But yeah, it's crazy, these similarities.
Yeah, dude. For it to just be like a 1-to-1 comparison, and it's like a perfect recreation of what happened before.
Yeah, there's so many, and it's also crazy because from an ethical point of view, you would think that
you would learn from the mistakes.
You would learn from the mistakes of the past.
You would learn from the most heinous evil that happened not even 50 years earlier.
Yeah, it goes back to that old saying where it's like, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
There are people who are learning from history to repeat it.
Intending to repeat it.
And it's just, it feels like insanity because of where I'm at.
Yeah.
From my perspective on the other side of this microphone, it's easy for me to say, like, wow, I would never do that because that's like morally reprehensible and just horrible shit.
Yeah.
But I'm not there. I'm not in that situation.
Yeah.
I'm not,
You didn't grow up.
I didn't grow up around this horrible propaganda.
Complete indoctrination and everything.
Yeah.
But it's just fucking insane to me, like the parallels between what happened in World War II and what happens even genocides prior to it and genocides after.
Yeah, it's just easy to say World War II because that's so well known.
Yeah, exactly.
We can say that, and all of our listeners, even if this is your first episode, you know what World War II was, and you know that the Holocaust happened.
Apartheid, same fucking thing. We covered this, I think, a year to the fucking day.
Yeah, pretty close, I think. The whole South Africa kind of...
Yeah.
We almost did a mini-series there. It was 3 episodes.
Yeah, 2 or 3 episodes, I think.
One of them was an exclusive. And about that stuff, and so similar. Yeah. And it happens again and again and again, and it's...
God, it's
crazy.
It's so unfortunate and sad.
Yeah, it just puts forth the idea that this is hell. We are in a hell dimension. We fucked up on a different plane of existence, and humanity is just hell.
God,
or something, Because it just repeats. It's like, it's a stupid thing, but in The Matrix, they talk about, the movie, they talk about humanity is stuck here in the 90s because there's enough bad stuff going on, but the quality of life is good enough. So there's kind of that balance because they realize if they put humans in all good, they start to fight back. And if it's all bad, then they fight back. So like for some reason, human beings just always have this balance of, there's some good advancements in the world. There's also fucking hell happening somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's weird.
It's just wild. So in 2014, a monument was put up in Visegrad for the victims. However, after it was put up, Serb officers and the local government insisted that the word genocide was too harsh.
Oh, yeah, too harsh.
And it should be chiseled off. Widows and the sexual assault victims showed up for like the opening, like the revealing ceremony and everything. However, prior to the ceremony, the local government hired a guy with a fucking angle grinder and ground the word genocide off of this monument.
Man, that makes that monument such a target for vandalism.
It
the
was
best kind
immediately.
of vandalism. Yeah.
Like I
Shit,
said,
I'd go buy a bottle of spray paint, write genocide over that. Like, come on.
It's basically just a constant battle back and forth. Because the same day, widows were going up and they were using their lipstick to write genocide on the monument itself. They'd show up the next day and it was painted over with white paint, and so they would
do it again.
I'll have pictures that are put up with literally a woman just writing it with her lipstick on there, and then the picture of the guy with the angle grinder grinding it off. So Bakira Hasičić, she's a survivor of the Velina Vlach Hotel. She was there during the memorial opening, and she was interviewed after. And she said the police in their uniforms and caps brought back memories of 1992. You relive those moments. My legs were shaking. When we arrived, we had no idea that they had already done that to the monument. People started crying when they found out. I couldn't even bring myself to look at it. And she is actively working to have the homes that were incinerated in June 1992 with the close to 100 victims, or 120 victims, I should say, rebuilt, restored, and given a memorial and monument status. She's actively working to get that done. However, the local government is trying to tear it down, claiming that the road is too narrow in the area and it needs to be widened. It's a constant struggle for surviving Bosniaks in the area to remind others of what happened due to the SDS gaining governmental control of the city again in 2012. Yes, the SDS is still around, and they're still fucking nationalists just like they were in 1992. I mean, this is 20 years after everything, 17 years after the war itself has ended, and the SDS is still just in denial mode, in poor Serb mode. It's just like, what the fuck is wrong with people? And I would imagine it's just so hard to speak out when when your neighbors are the same people that killed your husband 20 years ago, that killed your dad when you were 2 years old.
It's so recent.
So many members of the White Eagles never served time, were never punished, because how do you even go about doing that?
Yeah, like, it's not a prison big enough.
Yeah, these are paramilitaries. These are just radicalized people that live down the street. Like, I don't want to sit here and fearmonger and say, hey, you know, your next door neighbor could be a fucking Nazi radicalist. But I mean, we're in Utah, so that's a good chance.
Yeah, either that or somebody who abuses their children.
Yeah, fuck, for real. But it's the reality of the situation. And this isn't to say, hey, you know, don't trust your neighbor or anything. That's not what I want anybody to take away from this episode. It's that even someone with the best intentions can be driven to do the most deplorable fucking things. And it took until 2005 to catch Lukic.
Wow, he got away for a long time.
Everyone did.
Oh, yeah.
It was so hard to track anybody down because of how not necessarily disorganized, but how chaotic all of this was. Especially because in areas like this, you have the Serbs that are like a third of the population. However, in some areas you have the Serbs that are 75% of the population, and you're not going to be able to ever track down the guy that was directing and controlling the paramilitaries and the police in the area.
Well, yeah,
because everyone's going to back him up because they were all in the paramilitaries.
Yeah, I was going to say, he still has allies, even though the UN comes out and all these countries say, oh, that was bad. That doesn't necessarily even reach some of his allies, like some of the people in this chaos, in these dangerous areas. Yeah, of course he's still going to like have allies and have ways to hide and escape.
Oh yeah, and I mean he was known to work alongside and within a drug smuggling ring that Karadzic was in at the same time, and this is
perfect.
The fucking butcher, one of the butchers himself, and this is following the war. They did all of this drug smuggling so that they could fund a security team to watch over them. And it was to fund, I think, for Karadzic. I'll get into it further down the line. But during the winter, like just before winter would start, they would take a car into the Balkan Hills, which are impossible to search. And as soon as it snows, you're not going to be able to get up there. So they would just hole up for the winter, and then they would go on the run during the spring and summer.
Yeah, and you got to finance it. And drugs
and that's
are a great
exactly
way to do
how
that.
they would do it. And you have all these people that have these connections within the Serb communities, like Lukic. His cousin was actually promoted to the chief of security at one point of the security. It was Preventiva, which was the security company, or the police is more or less what it was, that were working for Karadzic to protect him. His cousin became like the chief of police, more or less, along that. And
that's not going to influence any search for him.
Yeah. So the police, not the Preventiva police, but authorities raided Lukic's home in 2003, I believe. Raided his home, and they thought it was him that was in there, but it was actually his brother. They shot and killed his brother, and he was in Argentina at the time.
Wow, crazy how many fascists go to Argentina.
Yeah, for real. Heard about what happened, decided to turn himself in, and he got to Argentina with a fucking fake passport. I don't remember what the name was. I don't give a shit what his fucking name that he went under was. But yeah, he turned himself in. However, despite turning himself in, during the trial, his defense team was constantly offering witnesses money to change their stories.
Oh, simple jury tampering.
To change their statements. There was one guy that they actually had listed as a witness. They had to pull him, and he ended up serving 3 months for perjury because he lied about all of it because he got paid. He got paid off. He was, I don't think he was interviewed, but statements made by him were that Mladic has always been and will remain the true hero and idol, and Karadzic the leader of my people. He was sentenced to life in prison for murder, cruelty, persecution, and crimes against humanity. He was, however, never charged with rape, despite one of the prosecutors saying that there was ample evidence about a large number of rapes, murder, and serious crimes committed at the hotel. Bakita, the one that I talked about before, that she's working to restore monuments, she worked at the Vilina Vlach Hotel, and she listed him as specifically one of her abusers, and she's also working to this day to get rape charges and sexual assault charges added to his list of crimes. In 2008, the Vilina Vlach Hotel reopened, There was no change of furniture. There was no redesign. They didn't change how it looked on the outside. They didn't rebrand. It looks the same as it did during its camp operation. The hotel was actually featured in a 2020 Visegrad tourism page that the government put on.
Oh, of course.
With coupons for visiting or using their rehabilitation services. Nothing about visiting in honor of victims. Nothing about the money going to families of the victims. The advert read, both the sick and the healthy have come here for centuries. Some for health, some for rest and fun. We are waiting for you in Visegrad.
Yeah, it's a little foreboding. Rest and fun for half of the people.
Yeah, it's fucking insanity. And like I said, they still do nothing to help teach about what happened. There's so many people
to even acknowledge what had happened.
There's so many people in these areas that, like, there was one article that I was reading, and they said you can't even bring up the names. Like, you can't talk to somebody and bring up Lukic because there's a chance that they'll just start getting furious that you would even try to say that any of that happened. Or they would say, like, we ran into it ourselves.
Yeah, we've already ran into this.
With somebody that says, whoa, those were Serbs, not Serbians. And it's like, I get what you're going after. However, denial or pointing the finger in another direction it's just simply a focus on misdirecting the blame rather than saying, Serbs and Serbians alike. Like,
that was
newsflash. I talked about it in the fucking second episode of this. Miritic, or whatever his fucking name was, the president of Serbia, was also held accountable and tried for war crimes by the same committee that charged Mladic and Karadzic. It's preposterous to me to say, well, those were Serbs. Well, realistically, they were people that you knew. And I'm not going to sit here and say that every single Serbian and every single Serb did this, but the fact of the matter is a lot of fucking Muslim people died. 2 paramilitaries, 2 extremists, 2 people that they trusted for help, to neighbors that they had for fucking decades that were so quick to turn on them just because they were different.
Well, I mean, what you just said, you could literally say about the German people in World War II, about the Wehrmacht, the myth of the clean Wehrmacht and all that stuff that we've talked about. It's the exact same kind of thing. And you know what? There's still Holocaust deniers. Yeah. There are still dipshits that exist, unfortunately. And, wastes of breath still exist. And, denying that these atrocities never happened only makes you look bad.
Yeah, really, though. So, that's part 6. I have no idea how many more we've got to go. But
we'll just keep going until you feel like you hit it all.
Okay, until I've tied it up. There will be an end. I guarantee. I'm not going to just leave it. But like I've said in previous episodes, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of
mental effort.
Yeah, just getting past and trying to write notes on a lot of this stuff is a fucking struggle. The days leading up, I'm like, do I want to do a Butchers of Bosnia episode? I like doing the fun episodes. I love doing episodes about Abraham Lincoln and his weird fucking ghost fetish.
His gay bodyguard or whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to try my damnedest to keep on top of it. I know that this half of the season I've only gotten like 3 of these done. However, last half of the season I only got 3 done. So
there you go.
Just plan on 3 of them happening per half of season. But yeah, I enjoy doing other episodes as well. I will do my best to keep these as regular as I can possibly fucking handle. But if you guys have any any stuff that you find, any photos, any articles, anything that you can send my way, send it along. Any personal accounts, even if you weren't there and you were in the U.S. and you watched it happen and you watched news reports.
Oh yeah, it would be
and it was
awesome.
fucking terrifying. Send me your thoughts. I was like an infant when all of this shit was going on. I was shitting my pants while all of this was still happening. I have no reference point in my own life for the experience of what was happening during the events of the Yugoslavian Civil War. So if you have an experience or there's something you would like to share, whether you were a victim or not, contact us. Reach out.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Just reach out about it. I would really, really, really love to hear from anybody, even if it's just an opinion on the piece or just discussion. By all means, just fucking message me. Do you got Patreon pulled up?
Yep, I do. We'll make it quick.
Yeah, for as always, if you would like an exclusive episode every month on the first day of the next month,
Yeah.
or, we have a handful, or not a handful, we have like 20 Sloppy Seconds episodes on there. AJ is working on a series called Voices. Just give it like 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, almost done with school.
And yeah, by all means, check us out on Patreon. Search for it, Pressure Points. Search Points O Pressure, or just patreon.com/Points O Pressure.
We've got the board, Mini D and Toddle Waddle. Thank you guys for allowing us to continue. And then, of course, we've got Abby, AJ's Third Nut, Kitty Titties, Thomas, Weston, Dark Runner, D's Nuts, G-Dog, Hayden, Lara Revo, and Lindo. Thank you guys so much for being here, allowing us to do these bigger pieces, these funnier pieces, these not-so-funny pieces. You know.
We just appreciate you guys. The list is getting longer and longer, and it's just...
It's nice.
One of these days, we hope to get it long enough that AJ passes out while doing it.
Yeah. I want to get to the point where I have to alter it and say only the board is on or something, you know?
Yeah. But we really, really do appreciate you guys sticking around and supporting us. And for those of you who can't afford to or just decide not to, it's okay. We're just glad that you're listening.
Thanks for listening.
Share us with a friend that you'd like instead of subscribing on Patreon. Somebody that you think might like the show. We'd appreciate it. And as always, if you ever have any suggestions for movies, since the first 10 minutes of our show is always dedicated to movies, music, TV shows, books, articles, memes, fucking lewd magazines. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I have a good collection of those. From vintage ones.
Yeah, right.
They're all vintage.
Any of that stuff, by all means, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at pointsopressure. Email us at ppdnaj, all the letters, at gmail.com, or go to our website, leave us a voicemail, or go to the contact us page and send us an email. We'll catch you guys next Monday.